Welcome guys to this special video that I may continue to do week after week. I actually went ahead and from the inception of the WWE Network, I have watched a lot of the old school wrestling from back in the day. If you did pay attention to any of my videos from when the channel first got started in 2015, I actually uploaded a couple of retro WCW Monday Night Nitro events that I reviewed, and I kind of did that for a little while and then just continued doing it because I wasn't getting a lot of views. Now granted, I don't think I'm going to get a lot of views. If I do, thank Christ for that. I would like to get some more views, get some attention here on this channel. And if this thing does bring that out, fantastic. If not, I'm doing this for the fun and entertainment purposes of doing it. So I've been watching a lot of the WCW Nitro events that led up all the way up to May 19th of 1997. So I'm not going to go back and watch all the episodes along with the 1996 episodes of Monday Night Raw, but I'm thinking about doing a review on both the Monday Night Nitro and the Monday Night Raw episodes through the years until until Nitro, WCW Nitro, went out of business completely. They just folded up shop. So I'm thinking about doing that, plus also involving some of my reviews and also doing reviews on Thunder and SmackDown as it comes to that point where those shows started being used on that specific program. So I will start doing more reviews on them as they come along. Right now it's just going to be Nitro and Monday Night Raw. So I'm going to go straight into Monday Night Raw from May 19th, 1997's episode. This actually took place in Mobile, Alabama, in the Mobile Civic Center Arena. A little bit of build-up if you're not familiar with some of the storylines that were going on during this time. Of course, Stone Cold Steve Austin was the center point of this company. He was really becoming big. He hasn't gotten to the point yet of becoming a WWE champion. Just to go over the champions on this program at this point in time during the episode, the WWE champion was The Undertaker, who he actually won the title from Psycho Sid at WrestleMania 13 at that time. The Intercontinental Champion is Owen Hart, carrying since April 28th of 1997. The European Champion was Davey Boy Smith, and that has been the case up to this episode since March 3rd of 1997. And the World Tag Team Champions was Owen Hart and Davey Boy Smith, which is the British Bulldog, if you're not too familiar with the name. They've been Tag Team Champions up to this point since September 22nd of 1996. So, they've had the tag team titles for a long time, and the Hart Foundation was actually coming about during this time. They had control of most of the titles outside of the World Heavyweight Championship. So going right into this, they actually had a recap of what happened during the week before this episode, and they talk about Shawn Michaels, showing Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart in the middle of the ring. Bret Hart at the time had a problem with his knee, and he ends up having a discussion with Shawn Michaels alone, feeling that he was kind of like Shawn Michaels was playing bullshit with him and pretending to have an injury, which he felt he did not, and so forth. So he wanted to lay out his frustrations. So he goes ahead and he does that. He says that Shawn Michaels doesn't have the balls to kick him in the face. And he just says he's not man enough. And then Shawn Michaels kicks him square in the face. He falls into the wheelchair and falls out of the wheelchair by going backwards onto his head. So I thought that was fucking great. They don't show that on the end of Monday Night Raw. I think that previous episode they do show extra footage, because I know in the Attitude Era episodes for Monday Night Raw, they kind of give you an extension of what's going on during the show after it went off the air. So I think they might have done that with this episode. I've never looked at it yet, but I may go back just for curiosity, just to see if they did. So we go right into Stone Cold Steve Austin coming to the ring to talk with Jim Ross about the actual reasoning behind why Stone Cold Steve Austin saved HBK last week from being thrown off the stage onto the floor. So, Austin says the only reason why he came out and saved HBK last week was because he saw another chance to beat up the Hart Foundation. At this time, Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin already had two major one-on-one matches with one another, once at WrestleMania 13 and then their In Your House pay-per-view in April, which would have crowned a number one contender for the WWE Championship against The Undertaker in the May pay-per-view. So, and that was pretty much his main reasoning. While Austin talks about weeding through the Hart Foundation to get to Bret, Shawn Michaels interrupts and tells Austin that he hadn't been Shawn Michaels interrupts and tells Austin that he hadn't been saving his backside because he likes Austin either, because he just hates the Hart Foundation too. HBK says he's been around in the WWF long before Austin ever got here. And he called him son a bunch of times. Austin never said Shawn wasn't tough, but what he is saying is that needs to take his little bandana and go backstage before he gets his teeth knocked down his throat. Thought that line was fucking funny as hell, the way Stone Cold Steve Austin delivered that statement to Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels comes back and Shawn sends some threats Austin's way, and that triggers a huge pull-apart brawl. Owen Hart appears on the Titantron, laughing his head off at these typical stupid Americans. They're too busy fighting each other to the point that they can't even handle the task at hand, which is taking out the Hart Foundation. Owen issues Austin and HBK a challenge for the tag team titles match next week if they can get their crap together. In response, neither Austin nor HBK say they want to team up together. And then it says, geez guys, get a room. More sexual tension between you two than an episode of Ally McBeal. It's quite obvious that you both love each other. Really fucking off the wall comment there made by Owen Hart, but alright, whatever. But yeah, that segment was really good. Anything with Stone Cold Steve Austin, honestly, was great back in the day. Shawn Michaels was very good with this, and this is pretty much leading up to a new faction that he comes up with, which I'm not going to go into. I'd like to leave this a surprise, as if anybody has seen these episodes. If not, you'll be in for a treat. So then we get a quarterfinals King of the Ring tournament match, which God knows we could always use one of those that actually means something, instead of one of these jokers like Baron Corbin. Jesus Christ. Anyway, we get Crush versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley, known as Triple H, with Chyna in his corner. This match didn't really go that long. It was about 3 minutes and 55 seconds. And so basically all this leads, it's a back and forth match pretty much. All this leads up is a lot of interferences. So what happens is they go ahead and try to do a pedigree but Savio Vega hops up on the apron while the ref is busy with him. China tries to get in a shot on the other side of the ring. When that fails, the ref tries to get China down while Savio and Crush encounter some miscommunication problems. Savio kicks Crush by mistake, costs him further advancement in the King of the Ring tournament, and that is it. Savio and Crush start arguing with each other, but Farouk comes out and handles his business. Or his... Yeah, the business, if you will. Whatever. The person who wrote this, I don't understand what the fuck he was writing, but that you get my point. He was just trying to get things calmed down between the Nation of Domination. Crush and Savio Vega were part of this faction called Nation of Domination with Farouk, which later on brought a new member, which I won't mention, but later on there is a new member part of the Nation of Domination, which, if you're not familiar with, you will get familiar with it in the later coming weeks. The next match was Owen Hart versus Bob Holly, formerly known as Hardcore, or actually later on known as Hardcore Holly. Now, this match was actually pretty damn good and only went 3 minutes and 38 seconds with an upset victory, with Owen Hart getting rolled up by Hardcore Holly, and that was it. So Owen starts throwing a temper tantrum afterwards, and Holly jets over the railing and through the crowd as Bulldog and Neidhart run down to the ring, and Holly has pinned yet another Intercontinental Champion on TV, which is what has happened on previous episodes. Now, this match, I would say, even though it was only 3 minutes and 38 seconds, was pretty dang good. I thought it was pretty dang awesome. So, next up, we had Shawn Michaels standing backstage with Ken Shamrock. Looks like HBK has found his partner that isn't Steve Austin. Apparently, Shawn feels he can trust Ken Shamrock. Ken says he'll take care of Davey Boy Smith if HBK can take care of Owen Hart. Now, back in the day, 1995, there was a first ever scripted injury that Shawn Michaels had with Owen Hart, which, by the way, was a great match. Those two guys headlined and main evented a Monday Night Raw episode in 1995, which I literally thought was a true injury. Later on in life, I found out by documentary that was all a ruse. It wasn't a real injury. I thought it was. I was only I think 6, 7 years old at the time, so I was gullible and whatnot. But I thought it was a legit injury because they did mention of Shawn Michaels getting involved in bar fights. He did sustain a concussion, so him getting hit in the head and him being laid out like a rock bought into it, which a lot of other people did too. It was never done before in history of wrestling. So that was a first, and I thought it was great. So they actually do a sit-down interview with Mankind, which this was really fucking great shit. I mean, Mick Foley was fucking insane in this. Let's just go through some of the dialogue that was written by this person that I'm reading off of. Let me see who this... This was posted by a person from Matt off of PDRWrestling.com. So let's see what he had for the dialogue on this. Just recapping what was said, because I can't remember everything that was said. It was pretty much him being a weird, out-of-place person and talking about the inside of his life, because nobody's really got an insight of his life. He came into WWF back in late 1995, early 96. Didn't really know much about him except he's Mankind. He's really kind of off the walls weird. So they kind of go into Mankind's character, who he is as a person and so forth, and that's pretty much it. But let's go a little bit deeper based on what this this author who wrote this article had to say about it. So this during this week's episode, JR sits down with Mankind. Before they go to the interview, a series of his most incredible stunts over the last year are shown. Just a classic Raw segment. They call him by his real name and show footage of his Dude Love days as Mankind recounts childhood stories such as being kicked in the lip and bleeding all over the place. All over his white Chicago Bears sweatshirt, and eating worms to prove he wouldn't let people of certain cliques steal away his pride. You think he got very many dates with the smell of worms on his breath. Jimmy, this was almost all parody. Some people get the humor, but many wrestling fans will find Mankind to be more sympathetic character. So then they say next week is part 2 of the sit-down interview. They will discuss more about Dude Love and the disturbing psychological evolution in becoming Cactus Jack. So they go a little bit further than that. If you haven't seen the episode, I highly recommend it just for that sit-down interview segment with Mankind. Thought it was absolutely spectacular stuff that they did there. Now we had a match with Leif Cassidy and Scott Taylor. I believe Leif Cassidy is the guy who's played by Al Snow, and Scott Taylor is not Scotty Too Hottie, but Grandmaster Sexay when they were too cool. So they have that match. I didn't really particularly watch that match. I actually skipped that, and I don't really care to go over it here. Thought it was kind of a wasted out segment that really wasn't needed to go over or even look at. So we get into hour 2. Vince McMahon's now there with Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler, which, God help me, why the fuck is he even there? So they kick off the second hour showing what we missed after they went off the air last week, reiterating what happened, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into that. Out comes the Hart Foundation to kick off hour 2 to announce their big surprise. After Brett makes fun of the rednecks of Alabama, he announces that a real hero will be returning to action at the King of the Ring pay-per-view. That hero is Bret Hart himself. He actually goes on to challenge Shawn Michaels in a one-on-one match with his knee already still messed up, and guarantees that he could beat Shawn Michaels in 10 minutes or he would quit wrestling in the United States of America. So that's pretty much the gist of that promo. Shawn Michaels comes onto the Titantron and accepts his challenge. A lot of back and forth bickering with each other. Shawn Michaels does mention a very valid point. Bret Hart, you got into a match with me in 1996 WrestleMania 12 Iron Man match, and you couldn't beat me then. What makes you think you can beat me in 10 minutes? Very valid point. Though, of course, this match doesn't come about. Later on, it's just Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin going at it one-on-one at the King of the Ring pay-per-view event. So whatever that may be, I don't know why that match got canceled, but I will definitely go over that with you once I get to that point in one of these episodes for Monday Night Raw. Goldust versus Rockabilly with the Honky Tonk match. Did not watch this match. Do not care. Skipping it. Ended up being a DQ anyway. Who gives a fuck? So, in the back, Vince asks, so we actually get a segment with Ahmed Johnson. So they actually go in the back, and Vince is asking Ahmed Johnson for comments on what Farouk had to say last week. While he doesn't like Farouk, he really can't argue with what he had to say. Ahmed's not a racist, though, but he does want to be the Hank Aaron of the WWF. Not sure Okay. So, what he's saying here is, to go in more specific, I don't know why this writer did not go into deeper detail about this, but Farouk kind of did politics here. And he put himself in this title match with The Undertaker for King of the Ring because he told Vince McMahon, look, there has never been a black WWF champion at that point in time. He said he kind of went ahead and got Vince against the wall, and I don't even think a black African American has ever challenged for a WWF championship, let alone win one at that point in time. So that was really controversial shit they were going into. So honestly, them going about doing this was actually a cool idea. Now, the writer didn't quite understand what Ahmed Johnson was talking about when he was comparing himself to Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron, well, actually, he might be right about that. I didn't quite get the analogy either. At this point now, I'm thinking about it. Outside of maybe Hank Aaron being the first black man to make history. Yeah, that's actually it. Hank Aaron made history actually hitting more home runs than Babe Ruth at the time, back in the 1970s. So I think that's what he kind of was meaning by that. But after the break, Stone Cold Steve Austin tries to convince Harvey Wippleman, basically a guy who's more of as a manager than a wrestler, which that was fucking off the wall crazy. So he wants him to become his tag team partner next week. He says he's a little scared though. That's when the Brooklyn Brawler stops by and asks for the opportunity. So he goes on to say, when he won't shut up, Austin tosses him aside and stomps him because Brawler is a bigger piece of trash than Wippleman. So, yeah, Austin was really off the wall fucking crazy here. So Brooklyn Brawler comes up to him asking him, if I want to be your tag team partner, I would be a better person. Let me do that, blah, blah, blah. And then Austin takes him, throws him into some cans that had the Monday Night Raw is War logo on there, and started whipping the shit out of him and stomping him dry, as he would usually put it. He then grabs Wippleman and he says, you're going to be my fucking damn tag team partner to go after these tag team titles. You're just going to sit your little fucking ass on the apron and you're going to watch me kick the shit out of both of these guys and we're going to win the tag team titles. Is that okay? Well, he doesn't say that's okay with him. He just says, you're going to be my tag team partner to win the tag team titles next week. And that's it. So that was pretty fucking weird. So then we have Farouk versus Rocky Maivia, formerly, actually later on known as The Rock. This match actually was very short-term match. Lasted only 2 minutes and 49 seconds. Farouk hit the Dominator to get the win. Very close matchup, by the way. Rock actually delivers a rock bottom during this match, which I didn't even know he was using this move at this time. I thought he got the rock bottom right when he was part of... I'm already giving away results, or spoilers here. Rock actually later on in his career joins the Nation of Domination. Okay, so there you go. I gave one spoiler away. Sue me. I'm sorry. So, after the match was over, Crush and Savio puts the boots to Rocky Maivia, but Farouk gets them to stop and orders them to leave him alone. And that's pretty much that, kind of giving you a hint that he was going to be placed into this faction later on in the future. So Vince McMahon introduces The Undertaker after the break is over and we come back to live television. McMahon wants to talk about Paul Bearer's secret, but The Undertaker wants to discuss the Farouk situation with him challenging him for the title. I absolutely love back in the day they would kind of multitask between storylines on one person that they were doing. This being an example of one of them. You got Paul Bearer going ahead and wanting to release a dark secret of Undertaker's past because Undertaker before this episode actually burned Paul Bearer's face. He's covered in bandage, by the way. Because Paul Bearer kept just interrupting his matches and so forth when he was defending the championship. So he goes ahead and burns his face. This leads to Paul Bearer wanting to betray his trust and give away the dark secret of Undertaker's past. And Paul Bearer wants him to come back to his side. He wants total control of the Undertaker and what he does. Or relay that secret. So he goes on to discuss, so it looks like we'll be hearing his thoughts on Farouk. He says he's not white. He's like Stephen Colbert. He can't see race. People tell him he's white and he believes them. Anyways, Taker is the reaper of wayward souls. Reason Farouk isn't the WWF champion is not because he's black, it's because he couldn't beat The Undertaker. Before he leaves, Vince asks Taker one last time about Paul Bearer's secret. Taker tells him that this is not the time. Just as that goes down, Paul Bearer appears on the Titantron going, "Oh yes!" with his face still all wrapped up with bandages. Paul once again tries to get The Undertaker to return to his side or else he will reveal the dark secret. Taker says he needs more time. Next week, Undertaker must give him his answer or else he'll actually deliver that information and tell him that the dark secret to the rest of the world at that point. And that was pretty much that. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Jim the Neidhart actually close out this episode. This match was very short, very brief. It ended up being a DQ within a minute and 50 seconds. Hart Foundation do a number on Austin until Shawn Michaels saves with a chair. Once they clean house, McMahon announces that Monsoon has confirmed that Austin and HBK will have to team up next week against Owen Hart and the Bulldog for the tag team titles. So much for Shamrock, and I guess anyways, Michaels and Austin get into another big pull-apart brawl as it goes off the air. And that's pretty much that for that episode. Now, the other episode for Nitro was very short. They were actually doing 1-hour episodes for like 4 weeks in a row on account of the NBA playoffs during this time on TNT. So they kind of had only an hour long, so they didn't really do a great job with this. Their episodes really, you can't compare Raw and Nitro together as one or the other. I mean, you can technically, but I'm going to give them the kind of a pass on this one. But I'm going to say Monday Night Raw, before I even get into WCW Nitro, I'm going to say that WWF Raw episode was just awesome. It was off the chain. Great storyline telling and so forth. Absolutely loved it. Now, we do get... now, Nitro was... from taking place in Asheville, North Carolina from the Civic Center. The current champions during this time was Hollywood Hulk Hogan. He became the champion on August 10th, 1996. WCW US champion was Dean Malenko. March 16th, 1997 is when he became champion. The World Tag Team Champions were the Outsiders from October 27th, 1996. Television champion was Steven Regal. He won this at the Slamboree pay-per-view that happened the night before this episode. So that's May 18th of 1997. 6, actually known later as X-Pac, WCW Cruiserweight Champion at this point, from February 23rd of 1997. And then there's a WCW Women's Championship, which nobody fucking paid attention to because I didn't even know from it at all. Akira Akoto actually is the champion from December 29th of 1996. So, let's go straight into this, get things started. They go over the pay-per-view that happened for Slamboree. They show that Piper and Kevin Green, a former football player from the NFL who played for the Panthers and the Steelers at the time, and Ric Flair defeated X-Pac, or Six, I should say, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash in the main event of Slamboree. Now, Mean Gene Okerlund kicks off the program by bringing out Ric Flair, the Nature Boy. He calls last night's match the thrill of his wrestling career by proving the NWO wrong that tradition trumps whatever philosophy those guys have going on. Six comes out, though, later on in the promo in his wrestling outfit, interrupts. He challenges Flair to a one-on-one matchup, and that's how this all ends. Ric Flair accepts the challenge, and that is it. This was very lazy booking. This show really was trash. I really did not like this 1 hour episode. So I didn't really watch a whole lot of the matches, so this will be short. I'm actually running out of time because the memory on my phone with the camera is got 45 minutes and 26 seconds total I could use up. I'm at 32 minutes, so I gotta hurry this up anyway. So the WCW World Television Champion Steven Regal versus Prince Iaukea. Didn't even really watch this match. This match ended in 2 minutes and 25 seconds. Regal doing the Regal stretch and making him tap out. Very simple, straight to the point. So they go back to the Slamboree episode with Mortis and Wrath handle Glacier, which was the biggest fucking waste of time. I don't even know why Glacier ever existed. The Cat, Ernest Miller, jumps the railing at the time and cleans house during this event. Why he actually did that, I have no idea. I don't know what the relationship is with Glacier, why you would even care. They don't even explain that. They just explain who the guy's name is and identify who he is. That's all. Big deal. Mashiro Chano versus Squire David Taylor. Did not watch this fucking match either. He actually, later on in his career, gets signed by WWE in the mid-2000s and is a tag team with William Regal on SmackDown, from what I remember back in the day. I have a good memory when it comes to wrestling. Anything else, forget it. I am a complete wash on that. Anyway, so this match ends. David Taylor, actually, they put over Chano here and puts Taylor away with the STF at 2 minutes and 59 seconds. No big deal there. J.J. Dillon channels the spirit of... Okay, so J.J. Dillon during this segment actually really reinstates Nick Patrick after he turned his back on WCW, joining the NWO faction, which is being promoted as its own entity as a wrestling corporation. And he then sees the wrong of NWO and turns back to the good side of and joins back with WCW, and J.J. Dillon reinstates him as the referee. Now, I love how they do very technical, legalized stuff here. I like how they talk about he's being reinstated. He's under probation for 30 days to make sure he's doing everything correctly. He is really true to what he says, that he's sorry for what he did, and that he wants to have his job back with WCW. I actually appreciate all of that. I thought that was very, very good shit. So overall, I enjoy when they did stuff like that back in the day with WCW. And they did plenty of that. They did talks about contracts. That is something they should use for storylines in today's day and age of wrestling. Storylines can be built up so well if they use real life situations. Like talking about someone with a contract issue. The last time they ever did a storyline like that was with Samoa Joe and TNA. TNA actually had a storyline talking about Samoa Joe having a contract dispute with the company itself, and he had an issue with that. So I'd love to see them bring something like that back. CM Punk was another one which WWE used and was very successful. One of the most successful things that WWE hasn't was the best thing they've done in years. CM Punk's contract issue, the thing with John Cena, all that stuff, all rolled into one package, was spectacular. It was awesome storyline. That's probably the best storyline they've done in forever. I don't think there's been a better storyline right at this point up to now that WWE's done. Because right now they're just horseshit. And I'm not even discussing modern day WWE anyway. So fuck them. Anyway. We have Michael Wall Street versus Scotty Riggs. Michael Wall Street, actually known in WWE, if you didn't know what he went by in WCW, the guy who played IRS in WWE is the same guy who plays Michael Wall Street in WCW. This match was a joke. Didn't really care for it. It was 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Riggs actually picks up the victory here and walks away victorious. There you go. Big deal. Mean Gene Okerlund brings out a NASCAR superstar, Mark Martin, and Ric Flair tags along just so the crowd wouldn't boo the guy. I'm surprised Gene didn't call them long-time close personal friends. This is all the writing of what this person wrote on this article. Anyways, Mark Martin announces that Valvoline is giving away a race car, blah, blah, blah. Just hyping up some NASCAR bullshit to get people interested. Vaseline was one of the sponsors to WCW back in the day. They're actually an oil, a specific brand oil. If you're not familiar with that, because I don't think Vaseline even exists anymore. So they go ahead and they're talking about this, and Flair drops a racing metaphor based on what he's about to do to Syxx tonight, and then goes, woo! And there you go. So, next match after that is Rick Steiner and Scott Steiner, the Steiner brothers, versus Jeff Jarrett and Steve McMichael with Deborah. Now, Steve McMichael, if you're not too familiar with him or know nothing about him because you didn't pay attention to WCW back in the day, I will give you information on this. Steve McMichael was a former football player for the Chicago Bears, and I think he did play for another football team later on in his career, just about when he was about to retire. So yeah, he turned into a pro wrestler in 1996, early 1996. So up to this point, he was in through a year of wrestling and so forth. So this match was back and forth. The Steiner brothers actually pick up the victory. They hit a Halliburton maneuver, and Rick Steiner actually turns Steve McMichael over for the 1-2-3 in 3 minutes and 36 seconds. So the leader of the crew, who had Steve McMichael turned on him last June, but he still wants to whoop up on McMichael. Whatever. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about here. This is just about Kevin Green and Steve McMichael here. They were former football players, of course, and he was just discussing what happened between those two, attacking each other and whatnot. With McMichael trying to screw over the Steiner brothers. So then the last match was the match with Six versus Ric Flair. This match was very short, very to the point. It wasn't even to the point. It was a disqualification, less than a minute. And Kevin Green comes down and saves the day. Or wait a second, I'm sorry. So later on, after Kevin Nash and Scott Hall whipped the shit out of Ric Flair with Six, Roddy Piper and Ric Flair come down to save his ass. And actually, Roddy Piper and Kevin Green come down to save his ass so that he doesn't get his ass kicked, and they run away and retreat, basically. Now, in the main event, it was just a promo. Eric Bischoff actually heads out to the ring to call out Sting. Since he won't return his calls or anything, he seems to be under the impression that Sting is a coward. You know, the man hasn't spoken on TV in forever. Maybe he did pick up the phone and just didn't know it because he isn't talking. Seems like an unfair accusation is all I'm saying. Anyways, Bischoff tells us that Sting will never wrestle Hollywood Hogan, blah, 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 so on and so forth. Next thing you know, Sting pulls a page out of The Undertaker's crazy playbook and comes up from under the ring and hits a scorpion death drop on Bischoff, and that's how Nitro goes off the air. And that's pretty much it. Now, at this time, Sting actually turned into the dark side. People were very, very not sure where Sting lied at this point. Was he with WCW or was he with NWO? Well, later on in the upcoming episodes, up to this point, you find out that he's really part of WCW, not NWO, of course. But he wears the white and black, so you think at the beginning stages of this character he's portraying that he is joining NWO because of the colors alone. Now, was this episode any good? I think it was very lazy, booked story, show, technically. I don't think any of the matches really gave us anything, but nor did Raw. Some of the matches on Raw were kind of shit. But the promos were great. The actual effort put behind storyline build up throughout the entire show with Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels was fantastic. This episode, I guess because it was 1 hour, they didn't feel the need of putting so much effort into it, but at the end of the day, you're on television. Give your show a good show. Give the audience what they deserve. They paid their money for it. Give them a good show. They didn't really do that, in my opinion. There was a lot of stuff that was skippable on the WWE Network that I just did not care to watch, and I just skipped out on it because it didn't seem all that interesting. So I have to give May 19th, 1997's episodes between Raw and Nitro the thumbs up to Monday Night Raw, a thumbs down to Monday Night Nitro. So that's pretty much it, guys. I'm running out of time on this video. I have only a few seconds left, so hit the like button if you like this video. Hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed to the channel, and leave a comment down below, and I'll definitely get back to you on that. If you guys haven't watched the episodes, these two episodes, check it out on the WWE Network if you already have it, and see what you think. Me personally, I thought Raw was a better show. WCW Nitro wasn't really as good as the other episodes I've seen before this one, so definitely check it out, see what you guys think. Anyway, guys, I'll appreciate your time. I hope you enjoyed the video, and have a great night, guys. Bye.